In this episode of the I Can't See You podcast, I talk about our first time in New York City in nearly a year when we helped Jane move back. I also talk about Keystone chapter t-shirts that we're doing as a fundraiser that are the bane of my existence.
From Studio B in Swarthmore, this is the I Can't See You podcast with David. It's like blind people for dummies.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 131 of the I Can't See You podcast. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. I really appreciate you joining me for today's episode, and I've got a few things to talk about, as mentioned in the teaser. But before I get to them, I do want to mention, I was looking around about a week ago, and I was looking at other people's download numbers and where they're ranked. And of course, this podcast is not ranked anywhere. But I do have 6 ratings. I also include reviews. I know that I've got 2 great reviews. One of them is from a teacher whose student I helped out in California, who is looking to get into some sort of broadcasting and podcasting and things like that. And I helped them out, and she gave me a great review. So I've got 6 reviews, like I said, 6 ratings, which are the stars. The reviews, I've got 2. And I know the other review is from Dan, and thank you, Dan. That was very nice. That was from a while back. So I've got 2 of those, and again, those are very nice. Both reviews, Dan's and the teacher from California. And then I've got 6 ratings total. The ratings are the stars. Now, of those 6 ratings, 5 are 5-star ratings. Great. But when you look, I have 17% of the people who rated the podcast as number 1, because one person gave me a number 1. And look, I know this isn't for everyone. It's basically a vlog, an audio version of a vlog. I get it. So if you haven't given me a review or a rating, please, I hesitate to ask now, please go and do so. If you give me a crappy review, please tell me why. I'm ugly, I'm bald, whatever. You hate the sound of my voice. It doesn't matter. But don't just leave me a 1 and say, that's it, and it's just 1 and done. Tell me why. Because that's not very constructive, that one. I don't know if I said something wrong somewhere along the line and pissed somebody off. It could be. Whatever. I mean, I see all these other podcasts that have thousands of ratings, and then here I am with 6, and one of them is a 1. That's horrible. So please rate and review. And if you do rate, I would appreciate a review. But, if you give me 5, I guess we could do without the review. But if you give me 1, let me know why. Or you give me a 3, let me know why. It would be much more helpful than just the slap in the face and then you run away like the guy with Emmanuel Macron in France. Although he'll be serving time, so I guess it's not that bad. So as I said, I do have a couple of things to talk about today. The first of which is Jane moving back to New York City. And when we bought the house back in September, moving in October, we assumed that we were going to have probably until this coming fall before Jane had to go back. The company that she worked for, a company called KWT Global, didn't have any kind of set schedule on when they were going to go back to the office. And that was fine. But as I've mentioned in recent previous episodes, Jane ended up leaving KWT Global and moving on to a company called Purple PR. When she got hired by Purple, they said, well, we'd like you back in the office a couple days a week, which is fine also, but that obviously meant she'd probably have to move back to New York, which is also fine because there's a million things to do up there and it's very nice. And she already spent a year on rent where she didn't live in the apartment and is now in another new apartment, which now, fortunately, she spent a few days in. She moved back up there. We took her back on Saturday, so today is Thursday as I'm recording and dropping the episode. So we had to move her back. I guess we didn't have to. I mean, she obviously is not taking a car back, and we're not going to hire movers, so I guess we did have to take her back. we loaded the car up, and to be honest, it wasn't as loaded as I thought it would be. It's funny because when she came home in March of 2020, March 14th, she basically took an extra backpack to work, filled it with some clothes and a couple of things of, makeup or whatever, figuring, oh, it's only going to be a couple of weeks. I don't need to worry about it. Well, so for the next 4 months, she basically had some clothes that she had here that she never had moved up to New York with, and those few clothes that she brought home in a backpack. And we didn't get the rest of her clothing and all of her makeup and stuff until she moved from her apartment that was on Hanover Square, which is one that she actually spent time in, to her apartment on the Upper East Side on 77th Street, on East 77th Street, which it turns out she, quote unquote, lived there for a year, but never spent a night. She did go there a couple of times because her roommate did move in. I think the lease started February 1st of 2020. So the roommate lived there. Her name is Shannon, just so I'm not calling her the roommate. Shannon moved in sometime, I want to say February. I think the lease, it was January or February. It doesn't matter. Jane never lived there because Jane was still on the lease for 10 Hanover. So last June, the end of June, we moved Jane out of 10 Hanover and up to East 77th Street. Very different feel. It seemed much more residential up there. There was a place that I really wanted to go to if we ever ate dinner up there, or lunch for that matter, called JG Mellon, I think. It's a hamburger place. Bobby Flay and his daughter did a thing on it on Food Network. So we never got to go there, and maybe one day we'll go there. So Jane paid rent on that place until January of this year, 2021. And they tried to renew the lease there, and I think I went over this, couldn't come to an agreement. They ended up leaving and finding a much better deal on a much larger place back down in the financial district, which is where Pace University is. Jane is very familiar with the area. Shannon also went to Pace, so she obviously is very familiar with the area. It's very close to a station called Fulton, which has most of the subway lines. So to get to any place in New York, it's, as I said last week, you basically, cross an alley and cross a street and you're there. So in inclement weather, you don't have far to go to get on the subway. And, like I also previously mentioned, had Jane stayed at KWT, it would have been an easy walk underground in bad weather because you go underground in Fulton and you'd come out at One World Trade, which is where KWT's offices are. So we move her back. Liz and I haven't been in the city since July 1st of 2020 when, we stayed overnight when we moved Jane from Hanover to East 77th, and then we hadn't been back into the city. Jane had been back into the city a couple of times. Once, when the salons opened up, she went and got her hair cut. She hadn't had her hair cut in, I don't know, I want to say 13 or 14 months. And another time was and she had hoped to go to see her new apartment then, because again, she had not been in there. Shannon did all the legwork for that. Shannon went, obviously with the internet, Jane saw pictures, and then when Shannon did the walkthrough, they FaceTimed so she could see it. And we had a general idea of the layout because of the pictures online and the layout online. So, again, great space. It's a nice apartment. We got to see it, as we moved her in, and everything was good with that. So that's, it'll take a little bit of while. Shannon moved into this place back in January of this year. So, she's been used to, living there on her own without having to worry about, anybody else's stuff, Jane's stuff. So it'll take a while for Jane's things to get assimilated to, hey, this, I have some stuff for the kitchen, some tools and utensils and little appliances, things like that, coffee maker, and so forth and so on. So it'll take a little bit of while. The bad thing with Jane with, switching jobs, she had hoped to have like a week off in between. That would have been helpful. But she didn't. She ended work at KWT on Thursday of last week, and only because Friday was a holiday, was Juneteenth, and the office was closed. And so that was her last day there. So she spent Friday pretty much packing up the stuff that she had here. And, then, like I said, Saturday we moved her up there. Now, one of the issues that Liz and I hadn't had to deal with, since the early part of this century, was what are we going to do with Ziggy? And what we did, we were searching for all these places to see where we could board them, and we were going to be a little bit more flexible, even though we wanted Jane to move up on Friday or Saturday once we found out that Thursday was going to be her last day. And we thought if we could do it on a Friday, if we had to do it on Friday, we would. But Saturday was the day we wanted. Sunday, it would have been too tight. She could spend the day on Sunday, putting stuff away, getting groceries and whatnot. So we thought Saturday was the best day. But if we could find a place to board Ziggy on Saturday or Friday or whatever, any day, we would have done that. We couldn't find any place for him. And, so we started to panic. What are we going to do with them? And, we reached out to the folks on the Shiloh and Maisie group on Facebook. They're the parents, Ziggy's parents. And there's, 10 other brothers and sisters. Hey, do you guys have any recommendations? And a few of them said, oh, why don't you, bring them over here? Well, most of the folks in the group, even though they're in the Delaware Valley, and for those outside the Delaware Valley is basically the Philadelphia area. Most of them live in South Jersey, so it's not an easy thing to take him from here to there. And if we could fit him in the car, we may as well just take him, even though it would have been a pain in the neck, to just take him with. I don't know how that would have worked out. I mean, they're worrying about me, and now it's me and the dog you'd have to worry about. So we got a little worried. What are we going to do with Ziggy? And one of the people in the Shiloh and Maisie group said, isn't there anybody local that we could have watch him? And then I remembered someone I graduated high school had a business. And, so I reached out to her. Her name is Lisa. I reached out to her, and she fortunately still has that business called Family Style Pet Sitting. And I said, do you still do this? And she's like, yes. And so she came over and we talked. I'm hoping that when she goes and meets new clients, it doesn't last as long as it lasted when she came here, because I felt bad. I talked to her for about an hour and 15 minutes and, maybe more. And, it was great catching up with her, and, I gave her a key so she can come in, and, so that all worked out great. So, if you're in Delaware County, because I don't think she'll go much further than that, but you can try her out. You can go to FamilyStylePetSitting.com to look up her website, and that has her phone number and everything else. I'll put all that information also in the show notes with the link and her contact information there. But fortunately, it was great. We had it scheduled. We were going to leave around 10. She was going to come over around lunchtime. Ziggy usually eats at noon. In fact, Alexa always reminds us that it's time to feed Ziggy, or it's lunchtime for Ziggy, I think is what it says. And then same thing at 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, Alexa says it's dinner time for Ziggy. And he used to get all excited, and it used to be so funny to watch him if he'd be looking out the window, and then you'd hear the little alarm from Alexa, and he'd get all excited, and he'd run into the kitchen and look at the the Echo Dot, and then come back and get Liz or I. And now sometimes he's laying down, and he lifts his head a little bit. and he doesn't really react until you're in the kitchen, getting his food out. It's pretty funny. So we had that set. She was going to come twice, and we were good to go, figuring that we were going to be home. Liz and I would be home somewhere in the 8 o'clock hour. Hopefully by 9, we would be home, and that would be that. And we're happy that worked out because when we bought Ziggy, I signed an agreement that we would not get him snipped until he was 18 months. No, he's only 7 months. So, do the math. We've got over a year before we can get him snipped. And when we were looking, some of the places wouldn't take him if he wasn't snipped. And so now at least we feel comfortable with, having someone that, can take care of him. And, when we're not, if we're running up to New York for the day or whatever it's going to be. And she also does it. I know she also, will take dogs at her house. In fact, she was going to be watching, I think it was a couple of Goldens for a couple of days before she was going to come and take care of Ziggy. So again, FamilyStylePetSitting.com if you want more information there. And again, I'll have it in the show notes. But I do appreciate Lisa's help with that because that was a lifesaver, and so it worked out well. So another funny thing, we're in the car, packed up, and again, it wasn't as full. We were a little worried because we used to have a Honda Pilot. Cargo space in a Honda Pilot is more than the Murano that we have. Part of it is because all pilots have 3 rows of seats. We don't need 3 rows of seats, so the cargo space also is a little bit smaller. So we were a little concerned, but we weren't moving any furniture. Obviously, the furniture that Jane had in her apartment at 10 Hanover and then at 236 East 77th was then also going to be at her Fulton Street apartment. So that had already been moved when Shannon moved back in January. So it was basically clothes and, I'm not even sure what else went in there. I mean, it's got to be more than clothes because I know there were makeup, and stuff like that, and, candles and, that's one thing. Jane loves candles. And one of her clients when she worked at KWT was a company called Diptyque. And, so she got some candles from them and they do smell great. They are very expensive though. I mean, don't think Yankee Candle or Bath and Body Works candles. I mean, these candles are, they start at like $50 or $60 and go from there. So we moved all that stuff and, and I said clothes. Do shoes count as clothes? Because she has 8 million pairs of shoes. I know there's still some here. But a good chunk of them are with her now in New York. So we loaded the car up and we were happy that it fit real well. We, the back seat, we put the larger part of it down. The smaller part was where Jane sat and rode up and we left and, we're driving up there. Car drives great. We're happy. I'm pretty tired. So I don't know if I just had my eyes closed or if I had actually dozed off. But as we're driving there and we're on I-95 North and we're just above Philadelphia, I then realized I said, you did put the Easy Pass in the car, right, Liz? Because if you remember I did the episode when we bought the car, the sales guy, Robert, remembered to get the Easy Pass out of the Pilot and gave it to us before we drove away in the new car. And Liz and I, in the following week or two, had a discussion. I said, is the Easy Pass in here? And she said, no, it's, on the kitchen table. And, we had this discussion. I said, at least put it in the car. It's not doing us any good on the table. Well, I realized, I said to her, you did put the Easy Pass in, right? She's like, no. And we're wondering what we're going to do as we're driving, up there. The tolls, round trip, I want to say from our house into the city, it's somewhere around $45 or $46, or at least it was. I think the tunnels have gone up. So it might be closer to $50 now. And we're thinking, I said to Liz, you have money? And she's like, I have $30. I said, $30 isn't enough. And, like most tolls, for example, the bridges that come from New Jersey into Pennsylvania, you only pay the one way. That's coming back. So we didn't need that money until coming back. And we knew once we got to New York, there's literally a bank on every corner there. And our bank is TD. And so we knew that somewhere along the line, we're going to find a TD bank. And of course, there's one right near Jane's apartment. In fact, right where her first dorm was at Pace, 182 Broadway. So we did end up going over there, but I'm jumping ahead of myself. So we knew we'd be covered on the way home, but going, we knew we'd have the New Jersey Turnpike, and we would have the tunnel, the Holland Tunnel. So Liz looked at the ticket quickly as she was driving, and she said, okay, it's going to be $13.50. And I said, okay. And Jane looked to see what the tunnel is. And like I said, it had gone to $16. And I thought, oh, great, we have $30. The only thing we couldn't remember was there a toll in between getting off the turnpike and doing the tunnel, which I thought there was. So we get off the turnpike. When you get off the turnpike where we get off, you go from the turnpike to Interstate 78, and then the tolls are far down 78, almost to the point where you're about like a mile from the Holland Tunnel. So the girl says, $14.50. And I'm like, uh-oh, $14.50. $14.50 and 16 is $30.50. And I thought we don't have enough. Well, we're scrambling, and I don't remember what the issue was, but we're scrambling and we're looking for an ATM somewhere, and we're thinking, what are we going to do? So Liz, realizing there might be another toll, Liz gets off at the last rest stop on the turnpike, figuring she'll use the ATM there. Well, the ATM there didn't have any money in it, so she couldn't get any money. So now we're panicked, especially when we paid the toll at the on I-78 after for the turnpike, and the girl says $14.50. So we're like, what are we going to do? I said, well, there's all these gas stations in Jersey City in between the time you get off of the highway and the time you get onto the tunnel. There's a bunch of gas stations. One of them has to have an ATM. So we're thinking, okay, well, we'll try that if we need to. And now we figured we needed to. And then Liz said, you know what? I kind of remember seeing $1 in your wallet talking to me. And I never put money in my wallet. Never. I said, are you sure? And she said, yeah, it's some special dollar, whether it was the first $1 from the video store or the first $1 from Salon Supplies and Interiors. And so sure enough, I go through it, and there's $1 folded up. And I'm like, I don't know what this is for. I said, so we went from being panicked to being like, 50 cents short. And we didn't have any change. Liz didn't even have her change wallet on her. And so we are like scrambling. It reminded me of the time we were at Franklin Fountain, and we didn't realize they were cash only. And we were scrambling, trying to find change in the seats. At the time, we didn't have an ATM card, so we couldn't go to an ATM. And Franklin Fountain has great ice cream, by the way, if I haven't mentioned that in other episodes. And I think I did last week. So we went from what are we going to do to, okay, great. It's only, this was the only toll, the turnpike and then the tunnel. And then realizing that when Liz looked at the change she got, she said, wait, she charged me $14.50, so I must have read the ticket wrong. To wondering then what we were what are we going to do? Figuring we're going to maybe have to get off and go to one of those, gas stations right there in Jersey City, or, there's a Home Depot there, and there's got to be an ATM somewhere around there. To the fact that, then we found the dollar. So it was like a roller coaster of panic, then joy, then panic, then joy. And then we get to the tolls at the Holland Tunnel, and it said, no cash accepted, easy pass, or a bill will be mailed. So we worried for nothing all that way for probably, probably half of the trip up. And it's not a long trip. It's only about 2 hours. It's around 105 miles or something from our house to Jane's apartment. It was just hysterical that we were panicked, and we didn't need to be. And then, of course, like I said, when we got to New York, while we were out and about, we went over to the TD and got some money out so we'd have it for the same $14.50 on the way home, and then the bridge toll coming back from New Jersey into Pennsylvania. So actually, there isn't the toll there anymore. It's one that takes the picture and then sends you something in the mail. So that's kind of funny. It was a funny trip up. And then, we get there, there's not the one problem. And I guess if you live in a city, the issue is always that, where do you park when you have to move in? There's not like a loading area. There's not like a service elevator, in her building. In her last building, there wasn't any elevator, so I guess this is a step above. In Hanover, 10 Hanover, they had this great maintenance building or maintenance elevator that was very easy. You can reserve for 3 hours, so when you have movers and everything, it worked out really well there. And parking, there was a parking garage very close, so that made it easy. There's a parking garage, but we actually ended up parking after we unloaded on this little Dutch Street. It's basically one block. It goes from Fulton to John, and it's one way you go from Fulton to John, little tiny street right there in Lower Manhattan. And, we actually had pulled down there to unload, and then someone had come, needing to get by us coming down. So we had to shut the car. I had to stay with the suitcases that had already been unpacked. Jane had taken some in, then Liz moved the car and then ended up parking on Fulton right in front of a fire hydrant, which I then stayed by, which I don't know, me staying by what that was going to do if a cop came and was going to give us a ticket. I wasn't going to jump in the seat and drive it away because I wouldn't have gotten far, obviously. So we got Jane moved in. We ended up having lunch up there. Which was the first time we've eaten in a restaurant since March of 2020. We ate at a place called PJ Clark's, which is I think it's in Brookfield, which is this nice place down right by the Hudson River. There's a mall attached there and offices and things like that. And again, we walked underground, which, is very easy. It wasn't a bad weather day, but it wasn't beautiful sunny day out. So we went there, again, it's good. It's not great. Liz thought hers was okay. And again, you pay a lot for, I think with tip, lunch was still over $110, $115. So it's something. Again, it's, for that, we would always expect a little better. So we did that, got the baguettes, which we were panicked at the place that we get them from there within Brookfield. We didn't think they had them anymore because the normal section that they had, where they had all the baked goods and pastries and whatnot, and the district is a French store, but it's very big. They have a little restaurant inside. They have a produce section inside, which is if I need lemons for iced tea, we'll run in there and get them. And there, as I told you last week, I always drop my glasses on the floor while I'm walking around recording, and they just went with the cord. So we went in there, and we were able, like I said, to get that, and then walk back to Jane's apartment, helped her get a few things situated. And then we were worried about Ziggy because we didn't want him to be locked up all day in his cage. we knew Lisa was coming again at 6, but, after that, we didn't want him to be another couple of hours, before we got home. And we did get home before 9. And unfortunately, it was raining when we got home, so we couldn't take him for a walk. We tried to take him on a short walk, but it was raining too much, so we didn't. But she's moved in, so all is well, and she started her job on Monday of this week, and things are going well there, and she's getting right up to speed with everything, and we're happy that she's up there. And as I said before, it's been our goal since we had kids to be empty nesters, and we're halfway there again. So that's the story with Jane's New York City move. Looking forward, obviously, to go back and seeing her, and as well as to spend a little more time, because we were loading and unloading and unpacking, helping her unpack. We didn't really have a lot of time to do much around the city. That's why we stayed downtown with lunch, and not off to La Durée. So maybe next time we'll get there. And get some macaron, and maybe even have lunch. The other thing that I wanted to talk about were the Keystone t-shirts. We decided a while back that we were going to do, we meaning the board of the Keystone chapter of the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania, that we were going to do a fundraiser and do t-shirts. I have some ideas for t-shirts that if we don't use them for the Keystone chapter, I was going to use them to do I Can't See You merch. And I'm still going to do I Can't See You merch. In fact, I got a shirt the other day that I did. I got it. Instead of getting a cheapo t-shirt, I got a decent quality t-shirt by Champion and did the logo. It's black with the white logo on it. So we're going to do these t-shirts, and originally we picked a color of blue. We were going to do blue, and I'm going to be the one to lay it out. And I thought, instead of doing the multicolor logo that the NFB has, and every chapter and state affiliate uses the same logo with just obviously with the wording, like if it's for the state affiliate in Pennsylvania, it'll say National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. The writing, the words will be all in either black or white, but the logo itself is a multicolored logo. Which is great if you're going to do that, maybe on a white T-shirt and then have the printing black. And then for the Keystone chapter, when it's a Keystone chapter logo, it has all that, and then above it on an arc above the actual logo, the actual thing. It just says Keystone chapter. And, so I thought, we'll put this on a shirt. If it's a blue shirt, I'll just make it all white. It'll look great. Well, we picked blue, and then we found out that another chapter in Philadelphia also already had blue t-shirts. And we're kind of doing this besides as a fundraiser. There's going to be this event in October that multiple chapters may be at, and we thought, it'd be great if we had a different color than that other chapter in Philadelphia, so that we can say, oh yeah, there's the blue. The blues are this chapter, the greens are that chapter. So Harriet's favorite color, Harriet is the president. Harriet's favorite color is green. She said, okay, let's do green. Okay, great. I do a design, and I see a T-shirt using Printify. I thought, let me try it. And I'll make one for Harriet, and we'll see how it comes out. I want to see the quality of the shirt, and then, we'll see how I do on the design. Well, the design sucked. I mean, it just sucked. It was too low. Sizing of the things didn't work out right. And we determined that we would, instead of doing it that way, the way I had it, which was the small logo on the left breast, and then the words, "Live the life you want," in the center of the shirt, we would do a large logo on the front and then "Live the life you want" on the back. That's the slogan. The NFB slogan is "Live the life you want." And there's a song and everything. So when we settled on that and we started to get orders, I thought, okay, let me go order some of these shirts. And I go back to Printify, and instead of being, less than $10 per shirt, they were $13 per shirt for this Irish green that we were going to use. And if you've ever tried Printify is similar to I don't want to say it's like Uber, but, basically you pick, it's basically a site where you can go in, and if you're a printer, if you do, direct to garment printing, you can, you sign up and, you could be the one that gets the job. And you, meaning me, a customer would then look on Printify and say, okay, I'm gonna pick this printer as my vendor for this shirt, and you could lay it out. And you don't have to stick with any particular one. You can do, you could do the same shirt from 4 different vendors, and you can, create a store and stuff like that. Obviously for this event, we're not doing that. We're, I'm basically going to place the order. I'm going to pay for the shirts and then get reimbursed by the chapter, once all is said and done. As if I hadn't mentioned, I am the treasurer of the chapter. Not a position I love, but I was asked to do it. I'm okay with it. Again, there's a, but doing the fundraising stuff and doing the different things to coming up with ideas for the fun, I love doing that. I love making the stuff. I love doing the designing. Again, with my vision, I shouldn't do it, and I have to have somebody that can see, just double check. For example, I did my T-shirt. I had Liz take a look at it, and she said it looked okay. The logo came out okay. But when we got the shirt, the logo was low. Wasn't as high up as I would have liked. And I said to Liz, did you notice that in the mock-up that I had done? And she said, I guess I didn't pay attention to that. And I said, okay. So now I have to make sure that when I do something, I've got to specify, is it centered properly and all that. She was looking at the quality of the logo on the shirt, not any of the other stuff. So, it's okay. And, I'll do more, and people won't notice. Now, people who listen to this and then see me in that shirt will say, "Ooh, that logo looks a little low." I'm talking to you, Alex. You're going to see it and you're going to say that. So, so I'm doing these shirts. I can't find a vendor to get the shirts less than, like $12. And then shipping is somewhere between $4 and $5, again, depending on the vendor. So we can't do the shirts for, let's say $16 or $17 and call it a fundraiser, because it's going to call it a break even, not a fundraiser, because, you have PayPal fees, for when people charge for the shirts. And, so we're looking at, I don't remember what the PayPal fees equal to, but, probably lose about 75 cents there. So now you're $16 or $17 and you got 19 and a quarter coming in. Okay, we're not going to lose, but, still, I can't tell you how many hours I put into it. And, it's just frustrating. And part of the problem with Printify or any of the others, and that's what I was doing last night, looking at other print-on-demand places, they carry so many different colors of the same shirt, meaning the Gildan 5000, which is the shirt that we had picked because of the pricing and the quality and whatnot. So one place carried, it had to be nearly 24 colors. So it'll say, when you look at the vendor, it will say, priced from $8.29. Yeah, $8.29 maybe for the white, where they have a whole bunch of them, or the black where they have a whole bunch of them, but not for the Irish green. So I have to go to each vendor and check the Irish green. But in most cases, I have to physically make a mock-up of the shirt just to get the pricing. And I don't know how to do it otherwise. And, there may be some drop down that I'm missing, again, because of the way that I use the computer, that may be, that may be making it a little more difficult for me. Because I haven't, fully embraced doing 100% voiceover. And again, not that it would do that anyway, because, some things are missed. And I've noticed, as I've mentioned before, some things just don't show, or it'll say button, or it'll say, something else, whatever. But, so it's just been frustrating. That's, the last week, just about every day when I'm on the computer, I go through my emails and I try to find a vendor for the shirts. I don't think it would pay for us to do something local, because they usually want a larger amount than what we're probably going to order. If we order 20 shirts, I would be surprised. And that's what makes the print on demand so nice. Basically, do it, they ship it, it goes right to the person, so we don't have to distribute it. It goes right to them. And I have to tell you, the company that I used for my I Can't See You podcast one, the one on Champion T-shirt, which I think is the same company, I'll have to go back and look, is the same company I was hoping to use for the Keystone chapter shirts. I kind of think it's the same vendor. I had the shirt within 5 days of ordering it. So it was a blank black T-shirt, and within 5 days I had a T-shirt with my logo on it, which to me is pretty incredible. I'll have to look back to see when I ordered it. I got the shirt on Tuesday, and I wore it yesterday. Got it Tuesday in the mail. So, like I say, I want to say I ordered it Wednesday or so of the week before. Not 100%. I know Liz was still in school, because I had her look at it when she was in school. So it wasn't long, though, and I was very surprised at that. So that part is good. But again, trying to find, so if you have a T-shirt, if you know a T-shirt vendor that has a bunch of Irish green T-shirts in stock and can print these up one by one, or, a whole bunch of different sizes. And that's the other thing, small, medium, and large are usually all the same price with any vendor. But when you get either to extra large or double XL, then the price starts to go up. And sometimes it's dramatic, meaning that even when I did that small T-shirt that I had as a test for Harriet, I know the double XL from that same vendor was probably $4 or $5 more then. So, there could be a significant price difference. And I know with a lot of them, it was, $3 or more. So when you get into that and you're talking about paying $15 for a shirt and then $4 for freight or $5 for freight, it's break even or even lose money. So it's just been so frustrating. That's, again, like I said, spending basically every minute on the computer, either going through some email and checking some things that I don't check when I'm on my phone, because I don't have all my email addresses on my phone, because I've got a million of them. I've got a million email addresses. With every website that we create, I have an email address, because they're specific for affiliate marketing and they're specific for other things. And, I don't need to answer some of them that quickly. So, and then there's some that I get that I have to reply after looking things up, and I want to type it, not dictate it. And it's just a lot easier using a keyboard with, the tactile keys, as opposed to listening as I type it on my phone. And dictating, I'll tell you, dictating lately has been weird. I don't know if it's my voice or if it's me or if it's my phone. But it has just been, it says things that, sometimes I don't correct it just to see if, and I don't do it when I'm texting with friends, but with Jane or Liz, I let it stand to see if they get what it's saying. So it's just kind of funny. And it's, listen, that's what I have to do to fit in with everybody. That's, that is what it is. So that's the Keystone T-shirt story. I do have one more thing to add with, it doesn't really fall into the moving Jane back into the city. But, as I've talked about, we have this new car, this new Nissan Murano, and we're on the Jersey Turnpike coming home. And I asked Liz, I said, how many miles do we have? Did we hit 1,000 miles yet? And she's like, no, we're at 849. And I said, 849? And she's like, yeah, why? I said, well, when I was a kid, my dad got a new car. He actually got a new car and a new van. Both were for his store, for one of his stores. The van was a passenger van to take people in their groceries home. He had a store in Chester, and there was a lot of older folks that, would just be hard for them to, get to and from the market. So, the van service was, a free service. They put the stuff in the van and the people in the van, and then, take them back home. The last three numbers of that license plate of the van was 893. And it was a Chevy van. I was so excited when my dad got it, because I loved and if, like with any of the vans, the seats can come out. So, if he needed to haul a lot of stuff from one store to another, he could do that. But the license plate for his car, and his car was a station wagon. He always had a station wagon until, and it may have been the last station wagon that he had. He ended up getting Cadillacs, for his last car when he had the stores in Delaware, and then another Cadillac later on, after he sold his businesses. That was $894. So when I was a kid, whenever we would go into like a deli that had a lottery machine, or if we were out to dinner, my mom and dad and I, and my parents walked past like a drugstore that had the lottery machine, he's like, come on, let's go play $894. And so we would play it, $1 straight and $1 box. So you win 500, at least at the time, you won 500 if it came out, or if it came out not 894 but 489, 849, whatever, you won $80. So when Liz said it was 849, I said, Liz, let's play that. Let's stop and play that on the way home. She's like, I am so tired. I don't want to stop anywhere. I just don't want to. And I kind of let it go and forgot about it. And every night while I'm watching the news, I watch Action News on Channel 6 in Philadelphia. And I don't know why. Because I check news all day long. And I don't know why I even need to watch Action News. It's almost like a way to, like a way that the day ends. So I'm watching, and I always watch the lottery numbers. I always see how many numbers come out. Like, if a double, in Pennsylvania, there's a 2-digit, a 3-digit, a 4-digit, and a 5-digit number. And I look to see how many doubles there are. Like, let's say, the play 3 number in the afternoon is 115. There's a double. And I count those. And I just always, it's funny how it goes in streaks, and how, like last night, for example, I don't remember if it was Pennsylvania or New Jersey. There was a 4 in every one of their numbers, which I thought was interesting. So I'm looking at the lottery numbers that night. And I first looked at the day, and I pause it so I can see it. And I look at the day, and I'm like, no, it wasn't going to be for the day. It was going to be at night, because it was on our way home. And it was, the number that came out was 489. And so now, as I'm telling this story, so I'm thinking, okay, when I saw that, I said we missed $80. But as I'm telling this story to you right this moment, I realized that was after the number came out, or around the time the number came out. There's no way we could have played it, because, we didn't leave Jane's apartment until sometime in the 6 o'clock hour. And I don't think we were even in New Jersey until 7 or 7:15. There's a little bit of traffic going to the Holland Tunnel, getting to the tunnel, not in the tunnel, but not enough traffic that we could make a detour and run up to La Delaye, because I would have done that. So Liz could have done a loop around, and I could have gotten a couple mackerel. So Liz will be happy to know that she didn't cost us $80. But I just thought that was funny because, that happens all the time when you see a number and you say, oh, no, we're not going to play it. And then it comes up, or you do play it and it doesn't come up. I just thought that was interesting. So Liz will be happy to know that it was after the fact. And now I feel a little better that we didn't miss out on $80. So that is all I have for episode 131 of the I Can't See You podcast. I really do appreciate you listening. And again, if you would please leave a rating and or review, I would greatly appreciate it. And hopefully it'll be good. But if not, please tell me why. And again, you can always reach out on the phone, 646-926-6350. Leave your name and your town, and if it's okay to use your voice on an upcoming episode, if you have a question or comment. And I will use, good or bad, I will use those, on an upcoming episode. And or you can email ican'tseeyouPodcast@gmail.com. Remember, I Can't See You is only 7 letters long, even though it sounds like it's a whole sentence. ICANTCU podcast@gmail.com. I hope you're staying safe, being well. I hope you're getting back out there and getting back to almost normal. Not quite there yet, but pretty close. And I hope you are well. Take care. I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to the I Can't See You podcast with David. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. And don't forget to share the podcast with your friends.